Hello everyone, welcome to review number 4. This is Mrs. Jacoby, and welcome to AP Human Geography Unit 4 review, Political Patterns and Processes. Please like and subscribe for more review videos leading up to the exam in May. Our unit overview for this review starts with the essential question: how is political space organized and controlled? Topics in this review include states, nations, nation-states, boundaries, political power, and geopolitics. First off, what is a state? A state has 4 parts, including defined territory, permanent population, sovereignty, and a recognized government. Just a quick tip, sovereignty means control over a territory. Power to do what you want in your territory. Let's compare a nation versus a country versus a state. We have a tendency to use these terms interchangeably, but they are not. A nation is people who have a shared identity. A country is a group of people in a common region. And a state is a political unit that has those 4 parts that we mentioned a few seconds ago. Different types of states include nation states, multinational states, and not quite a state, a stateless nation. Examples of different kinds of states or political units include a nation state. A nation state would be Japan, where a shared identity lines up with the state concept of borders and government and territory and population. A multinational state example is the United Kingdom or Canada, because the United Kingdom, you have Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and in Canada you have Canadian population, you also have indigenous populations who live there. Finally, a stateless nation would be the Kurds. They want their own country. They sit in 6 different nations, but they would like to become the recognized state of Kurdistan. There are 3 forms of government that we look at: unitary governments, federal governments, and confederations. Since there are no active confederations in the world, we will focus on unitary governments versus federal governments. A federal government contains 2 levels of government that is generally reserved for the big countries in the world: the US, Canada. The 2 levels of government share powers. That is generally codified in a document or a constitution saying who has what powers. And then you have 2 different types of law, because you would have the national law and then whatever sub-state law is. But there's also unitary governments, and these are generally reserved for the small states. If you have a small state, you don't need 2 levels of government. So you only have 1 level. The Constitution doesn't really need to be as inflexible or codified, because it's only 1 government. You're not having to share powers. There's only 1 set of laws, and political power is held by this 1 government. Political power can also be divided into 3 categories. Democracy, which is set up by the people and the power belongs to them. Examples: United States, Australia, Great Britain. Autocracy, power is controlled by a single person or a small group of people, where the citizens have no say in what the government does. Examples there: North Korea, Kim Jong-un controls the country, or Saudi Arabia, where the Al Saud family controls the government. And then theocracy, where the power is controlled by religion, and that religion runs the government, and all civil laws must also comply with religious rules. Between every state in the world, there is a border. Types of borders could be political boundaries, cultural boundaries, and physical boundaries. Physical and cultural boundaries, easy. Physical boundaries are anything on the earth: rivers, mountains, oceans. Cultural boundaries are different languages. I speak German, you speak French, we're in different countries. Or religions, Muslim, Hindu, Christian. Now, geometric is different. That is a straight line that is negotiated and put into place. So, geometric boundaries are created by man. Physical boundaries created by the earth, and cultural boundaries, including religion, language, or other cultures. Now, we have different types of boundaries depending on when they were created. Antecedent boundaries, these existed before countries, and that's our natural boundaries. Subsequent boundaries are set up after people moved in. There's two groups, and they don't like each other, so they're going to build a fence. Superimposed boundaries usually come from an outside force. Two groups are fighting, and a third group builds a fence. And relic boundaries are boundaries that no longer are used to separate areas. Great examples there: the Great Wall of China and Hadrian's Wall in England. Now, to get a boundary, it is a four-step process. Well, the first thing you have to do is negotiate the boundary between countries. You have to sit down and talk to each other about where you're going to put this boundary. Then it has to be defined on a map. Make sure it goes on the map correctly. Third thing you have to do is then define the boundary on Earth. Make sure it's placed in the same location as it is on the map. And how are you going to do it? Is it going to be a line in the dirt, or are you going to build a fence? And then finally, you have to decide how that boundary is going to be monitored or demarcated. Are you going to have an open boundary where people can just walk across? Are you going to have fences and guys with guns? So you have to figure out what it's going to be. Boundary disputes. You got a boundary, you're going to have a dispute. A definitional dispute. Did we put it where we said we were going to? On the map. Locational. Did we put it in the right place from the map on the Earth? Operational. Do we have a problem with how the boundary is being administered? Do we have nobody there? Do we have guys with guns? And then the hardest one is allocational. What do you do if you find natural resources under that boundary? Who gets it? Do we share it 50-50? Does one country get it? So that one can be a real problem. Boundaries do not just exist between states. They also exist within countries. The United States has 50 subunits called states. Also within states, you have counties or cities, and they all have boundaries. Voting districts and zoning are also internal boundaries created by government. Voting districts, this is where you have to go vote. Or zoning, you can only put certain types of buildings or houses in certain areas. And finally, gerrymandering, creating voting districts in strange shapes to try to benefit one political party over another. This extreme way of drawing internal boundaries causes problems and lawsuits in the United States. I show you 5 different examples of extreme gerrymandering, 2 in Texas, 1 in Maryland, Illinois, and Louisiana. Now let's explain gerrymandering. There's 2 types: cracking and packing. So gerrymandering is defined as drawing districts to favor one group or another over another group. You get two different types of gerrymandering. First, you have cracking, where you're taking a group and putting them into other groups so they have no voting power. It's five blues, and only two reds. So the reds have no power, and you've spread them all out. Or packing. You can take all the reds and stick them in one group. You get to control that one. We get all the other ones. Now, competitive districts is the way things are supposed to happen. And that's where voters are choosing their politicians. If you look at the competitive districts, there is 8 blues and 8 reds in each of those districts. So the winner is the one who best reaches the voters. Unlike gerrymandering, where politicians are choosing their voters. Now, devolution is the transfer of power. You're taking power from the central government and you're taking it down to the subregions. It's a shift in decision-making functions to lower levels of government. Examples are Brexit, from when the United Kingdom left the European Union. The UK wanted to make their own decisions and they didn't want to listen to the EU, so they voted to leave. And Catalonia in Spain would very much like to become their own country. They would like all the powers devolved down to them so they can make their own decisions about what to do with their resources and not be a part of Spain. Reasons for devolution? Well, cultural differences between areas, economic inequality between areas, or political instability between areas. Cultural differences. We're different than you and we don't want to be together anymore. Economic inequality. We have all the resources and we want to keep them, so we want to stay separate from you. And then political instability, where different groups control different areas. Supranational organizations are countries working together. It's kind of the opposite of devolution, where these countries choose to work together instead of separate. The European Union is 26 countries working together. The United Nations is most of the countries in the world, or most of the states in the world, working to stop wars and help less developed countries improve. And finally, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where countries grouped up after World War II for military protection. So you have these 3 types. Impacts of supranational organizations can be good and bad. Economic cooperation, yay, we're all working together, we're all making money. But it can also lead to reduced sovereignty. If you're in a treaty with someone and you're working together with another country, you may have to follow some rules. That's one of the reasons that England or the UK left the European Union. They didn't want to follow the rules of open borders anymore. They felt their sovereignty was being challenged. We have 2 political theories historically in human geography that you need to know. The first one is the heartland theory. The second one is the rimland theory. Both of these theories deal with the Eurasian continent, or what was called the world island. The heartland theory is controlling Central Eurasia controls world power. In the heartland theory, the idea was that whoever controlled the center of the Eurasian continent would control the world because they control all the food creation areas or those good farmlands. The rimland theory is the opposite direction. Control the coastal areas of Eurasia to control the world. The rimland theory says controlling the coastlines of Eurasia is the most important. You could grow all the crops you want in the center, but if you can't move your crops or sell your crops, they're going to die. So controlling the oceans and the coastlines is a better way to control Eurasia. Political shapes of states include compact, elongated, fragmented, perforated, and prorupted. We no longer must memorize the political shapes of states for the exam, but we do need to understand how the different shapes impact the states. So the shapes are important in terms of governing. Compact shapes are almost round. They're little tiny kind of round or oval countries. Elongated shapes are long and skinny. Fragmented shapes are mostly groups of islands. Perforated shapes are countries, states that have holes in them. And prorupted shapes have pieces hanging off. You can look on the map and you can see Indonesia, very fragmented. Chile, very elongated. Poland, nice and round, so compact. South Africa, you can see the little holes in it. And just look at Russia with all the little pieces hanging off of it everywhere. Now, state shapes impact one, communication. Really easy to communicate if you're in a little round, compact state. Harder when you're elongated or you're a group of islands. Defense, same thing. Easy to defend a small country than big and spread out. And unity. When countries are super elongated, it's really hard to maintain everybody is happy. For an island nation, some islands may not feel like they're being included in the process. Territoriality. This is an attachment to land. It's creating ownership over a defined space. Territoriality can apply to your bedroom. It's my room. Or to an entire country. It is who controls the land, and this can be seen in border conflicts, because this is my land, stay out. Russia is attacking Ukraine to increase the size of Russia. Ukraine is defending their country and maybe grabbing some territory for themselves. We've already talked a little bit about electoral geography, gerrymandering to be specific. Now, redistricting occurs after every 10 years. They do a census, and we redraw the districts to make sure people are being represented well. You can see voting patterns to see who's voting for who and what. And then finally, there's that gerrymandering again, creating really strange districts so politicians can try to choose their own voters. Now, gerrymandering is a purely American issue. We don't see gerrymandering in other countries. This is purely a U.S. problem. Let's look at some AP-style multiple choice questions. Question 1. Which boundary is based on a natural feature? Is it A, geometric, B, physical, C, cultural, or D, political? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Please choose the best answer from the choices given. If you chose physical, you're 100% correct. Let's look at question 2. Which country is a multinational state? Is it A, Japan, B, Iceland, C, United Kingdom, or D, Norway? 10 seconds, choose the best answer. If you chose C, the United Kingdom, you got it right. The United Kingdom contains 4 separate countries. Let's look at question 3, which is an example of devolution. Is it A, globalization, B, the EU formation, C, a regional independence movement, or D, migration? Take 10 seconds, choose the best answer. If you chose C, a regional independence movement, you're correct. A regional independence movement means they want power for themselves. So devolving power down just might stop them from wanting to leave. And question number 4. A nation has a shared identity while a country has A, common religion, B, common region, C, common language, or D, political unit. Here comes your 10 seconds. Choose. If you chose B, common region, you're correct. Good job. Let's do a little bit of FRQ practice. Explain how boundaries can cause conflict. It's an explain. That means describing and adding examples. You should be able to explain what kind of conflicts can occur at borders. I gave you 4 different types. You should be able to provide specific examples, like an allocation issue or a cultural issue. Key vocabulary. Key in on that vocabulary. Know the definitions of states, of nations, sovereignty, devolution, gerrymandering, and boundary. You got to make sure you understand those definitions. In a final review, remember that states control territory. Boundaries will shape politics. Power is distributed differently around the globe and in countries or in states. And conflict often arises from identity at boundaries. As a quick final review, please make sure you understand this. When I'm talking identity, I'm talking nationality and how my nationality can conflict with someone else's. If you can define sovereignty or give an example of devolution or understand the boundary types, you're going to do great. Keep studying, keep practicing for that exam in May. Thank you for watching and be on the lookout for Review Unit 5, Agricultural Patterns and Processes.